Hello and welcome to the second lesson in creating healthy boundaries, dealing with strangers. As we work our way through this module, we're going to talk about the different interactions that you'll have with the people around you and how to create boundaries that you're comfortable with. In this lesson, we're going to start with how to manage those strangers in your life that feel just a little too comfortable to approach you now that you're pregnant. Let's get started. I mentioned this in the last lesson, that there's this strange phenomenon that happens with pregnant and new moms. Complete strangers suddenly feel comfortable asking you questions or offering unsolicited advice. They may not be complete strangers, but could also be people that you may not have interacted with very much. Maybe it's someone at work or a neighbor that you don't know really well. All of a sudden, they're wanting to know your business. This can make anyone uncomfortable. It's important to first be aware that this is going to happen. You can't control what other people have the nerve to do, but what you can control is how you react. The key is to have a strategy in place for how you'll handle this unsolicited interaction so you're not after the fact wishing you had said something. I remember once when I was walking down my block, a woman who had never talked to me before asked me in a really loud and panicked voice where my child was, as though I had left them alone because I was walking along on the street. It was very strange. If you have a strategy in place, if you know what you're going to say or do, you won't need to be uncomfortable or overwhelmed when you encounter this situation. You might be having a difficult day. Maybe you didn't get your sleep, or maybe your baby's foot is just pushing you in the wrong spot. If you have a strategy in place, it'll make it much easier to control your emotions. So let's talk about some strategies. Let's say someone you don't know or someone you don't know really well comes up to you and asks you a question. How will you respond? How do you know what you're going to say? First off, you certainly can answer their question. Maybe you welcome this newfound attention. That's okay. But I also want to tell you that you don't have to answer their question or acknowledge their comment. It's your body, your baby, and you get to choose your way to respond. When I encountered this woman, I told her that my baby was safe at home with my husband. But it was hard to bring up that patient answer, and I was taken aback by her approach, I have to be honest. Everyone's going to be different in how they respond. Let's talk about what you can do if you just don't know how to respond. The first strategy is to switch the focus back on them. People love to talk about themselves, so if they see that you're pregnant, more likely than not, it's reminding them of something in their personal life. So if they ask you how much weight have you gained during your pregnancy, you can switch the focus back on them and just ask, did you gain a lot of weight in your pregnancy? Not everyone could ask that. I wish I had asked that a couple times I was asked, but that is an option. Chances are they'll be more than willing to talk about themselves and take the focus off of you. Let's talk about the next strategy. Another strategy is to challenge the question that you've been asked. You're not obligated to respond to a question someone's asked, especially if it's of a personal nature. Say, for example, someone asks you, was the baby planned? Yes, some people ask you that. You can challenge the question by saying, I'm sorry, what did you ask? Or, I'm just going to ignore that you asked that question. Sharing your displeasure or discomfort after being asked a personal question is perfectly reasonable and appropriate. It'll send the message to the person that they've stepped over the line and in future may think twice about asking something similar. So it's okay to challenge the person with a question they've asked. Let's talk about the final strategy. The final strategy is to ignore and/or redirect. Again, you're under no obligation to respond to questions that you feel uncomfortable with. So a simple strategy is to just ignore. Feel free to not dignify the question with a response. It's okay to say nothing. If it's easier for you, you can just redirect the question, change the topic, ask about something unrelated so the attention is off of you. You might preface it by saying, you know what, I think I'm going to change the topic to... and then mention something else. A lot of times sports is an easy one, and of course the weather's always easy. So those are 3 different strategies that you can employ to help you deal with those nosy strangers. 1, switch the focus back on them. 2, challenge the question that they asked. And 3, finally feel free to just ignore or redirect the question. The key is to remember you have done nothing wrong. There's no need for you to feel bad or guilty about the interaction. Remember, you're the mommy manager, and you get to choose the interactions you want to engage in. All right, so are you ready for your homework? As you can imagine, I have a worksheet for you. At the top of the page, I've reiterated the 3 tips we talked about in this video. At the bottom of the page, I want you to think about how you'd handle 4 different scenarios you might encounter. If you think about how you'll handle these situations before they happen, you'll be more likely to respond in a way that you're comfortable with. So take some time, think about how you'll respond to these different situations so that you're equipped and ready when it happens. Good luck, have fun, and see you on the next one.